alright, pop. Alright, pop. Still scanner. I don't know what the hell's going on. Maybe I called you minion. Still scanner. I don't know.
All right, thank you for joining. Today is November the 23rd, 2020. Go ahead and share this stream. I'll be right back.
I have been patching up some pretty significant relationship issues. And now that I have patched that up, I was flat some macking. Pop, 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 pop. Alright, pop. Alright, pop, 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 pop. Alright, pop. Alright, pop, pop.
Alright.
Pop. Alright, pop.
Okay, now that's a track which you can hear on the link below. Any of the music you hear at Infinite Plane Radio, you can find by going to tinyurl.com/infiniteplaneradio, where we have a growing list of tracks and something new, which I mentioned the other day, but I'll go ahead and just bring it up one more time. On Thanksgiving, we are premiering South Pole Season 1, Episode 1. It's the latest project to come out of the IPR think tank. The art, music, deepfakes, animation, script writing, and editing all took place in the member Discord server. This week's episode features tabloid drama, violence, pandemics, black market vax dealers, and more, but I don't want to spoil it for you. So if you want to join us this Thanksgiving, go to infiniteplanesociety.com and make sure you sign up for the newsletter or join at patreon.com/infiniteplanesociety and you won't miss it. You'll get a downloadable copy. In fact, it's intended to be a weekly, and it's poignant and educational as well as entertaining. Okay, so let's go into this. There's so much to talk about, and just to be clear, someone showed me a picture of the Washington Monument from above, and I'll just say it's pornographic if you know what it actually means. The word obelisk means ball's shaft, or shaft of ball, the organ of reproduction. And you look at the design from above, and it's pretty obvious what it means. Just so you know, the world's run by the ancient fertility cults, as it always has been. Here's another question I have for NASA, because I've been noticing some things about their claims. Like, one of the things they say they can do, and I understand you can defraud people out of certain things, maybe scare them into paying more taxes to avert climate change, but this is like next level. I mean, it's pretty bad that they're trying to create a market for moon rocks, whereas before, if you were trying to sell moon rocks, they would send a SWAT team after you. But now listen to this. Buried with the stars. Buy your deceased loved ones a plot on the moon. So space burials are no longer a thing of science fiction, and rich science fiction TV show producers are finally... This is disturbing, I think, because they're talking about firing your remains off into space, burying people on Mars. So my problem with it is, what happens with the actual cremains? So what happens with them? Are they stashing them illegally? Are they putting them in somebody's basement? Don Petit's basement, where all the stashed technology is? So it says they're only dealing with 6 pounds of ashes, says a retired NASA engineer. Our lunar service is going to be among the most popular. It will afford family and friends the permanence of an off-planet service and provides a constant reminder in the night sky of a loved one's resting place. Okay, it's only $12,500. Might be a little bit more, and you get to put them... Oh, look at this one. Another one. If you want a post-mortem orbit at the lowest possible expense, Elysium. They can put your cremains in a CubeSat 4x4x4, and it will be part of a secondary payload so it doesn't take up space on a bigger launch. And yes, you could have yourself in a little cube floating around the ball Earth. Very believable. My question is, where are they stashing the remains? Like, isn't it criminal to... I don't know. It's just, there's something about stashing human remains. I don't know if I would trust them. I also have a picture here. This is the NASA launch director, Tim Dunn. I brought this up the other day. He's the one, launch director, who put a penguin, an unauthorized penguin, I might add, behind his seat.
To launch another rocket. Sentinel-6, Michael Freilich, is the third NASA LSP science mission to launch on a Falcon 9, and it will depart Earth from Vandenberg Air Force Base at Space Launch Complex.
So, not sure what to make about it, but they have indeed put a big penguin behind his desk. I've been looking at a lot of space photography lately, and it's not getting any better, but it's about to get better, I think, when they get into the colonization part. It's a lot easier when they're out there. But as far as their space photography and the launches, I'm underwhelmed. And they're real-time texting GIFs, as in animated jiffies. So concurrent with the launch, NASA's Twitter feed is like, okay, here it is, separation, and they're sending GIFs. It's a huge scam. Now, here are some live feeds just for your consideration. You know, there's something wrong with this. Okay, they're on the dark side of the Earth, and this is one of the main topics tonight. I think this is one of the main points that I wanted to bring up, is the apparent lack of a true Terminator outside of any NASA footage. Like, does the globe have a Terminator? So what you're looking at is the Earth from the night side, as seen from 200 miles above the surface, or 250 miles up. I mean, it varies, but you can see it's black. And you can also see that the entire horizon, the whole curve, is glowing. And that's because a spotlight, or a distant light source on a sphere, will in fact cut that sphere in half. It will bisect it. And that line is called the Terminator. Now, the thing is, if there is no Terminator, as in if you're looking left and right and you're not seeing a line bisecting a ball, well, there's got to be a reason for it. And here's my point. You can only have a Terminator line if we're on a ball. If we don't see a Terminator, if the sun's light recedes into the distance, into a point like a candle before extinguishing, then maybe we're not looking at a distant source and we're not sitting on a ball. It would imply a local light source, like a spotlight on a flat surface. And I'll show you what I mean. But my point is, they're fabricating the Terminator line constantly on all of their sunrises and sunsets from the space station. But you can see that this isn't how it actually happens, not only from your perspective on the ground, but even from higher up. So this is just another point. The Terminator is another hoax. So another point about this is, you'll often see images of the Earth, like from Apollo, where the night side of Earth is dark. You don't see any cities. It's black. Pitch black. So you have a Terminator, then it's dark. There's a shadow that the Earth is in, and you cannot see the cities. But then in more recent photos, like even with the space shuttle, it's dark. But the more recent images that were shown of the Earth from space on the night side, it's lit like Christmas. So I have to ask, well, which is it? You know, is it lit or is it dark? And on more recent photos, it's actually dark. I mean, lit. But the ones from Space Shuttle before, dark. And sometimes SpaceX will goof, I think. But now there's something else too. The shadow is back. So there are certain angles when it's traveling and you see the camera arm, you see some other components, you see the solar array. Well, there's one particular angle, and it's fairly easy to find. Boom, I just found it. And you saw me, I found it live. So here I am, an hour back from the Earth view, Earth scene from the ISS live stream. And I'm pointing the cursor next to some type of a mechanical arm, like where the elbow is. And what I'm pointing at is a shadow. And I knew this would be here because this is a mistake they've been making for a long time. I think this is the ESA. It's their side, the European Space Agency. But I hit play, and I'll turn on the soft calming music. And where the cursor is, and they'll say it's a smudge, but it's a smudge that's been here for years. It's actually a shadow that corresponds with the position of the ISS. It's the darndest thing. It's a mistake. I think it might be an artistic flair. Now, it's accurate. If this was real and the sun was there, it would have a shadow in that position. But the thing is, it's a computer model built to the specifications of the programmer, and the programmer didn't think this through. So good job, computer. You correctly applied a shadow on the ISS, but the animator made a huge mistake, and they should have already corrected it. And I'm looking at the size of it. Okay, now here on the map I can see what could it be. That's probably a city. It's bigger than a city. Have you ever had a shadow pass over your city? I mean, I'm in the path of an airport. I get planes flying over, and frequently the shadow blocks my window. But in this case, that shadow that I'm looking at, the spot on the Earth, and this is again a live stream, is probably bigger than Los Angeles. Like, it's a huge black spot. Again, I debated Red's Rhetoric and Fight the Flat Earth, two prominent NASA plants on YouTube, and they told me that I was crazy, that it's obviously a smudge. And I'm thinking, well, they've had, at least a year and a half to wipe that smudge off, and it's still there. And again, the smudge is perfectly tracking with the position of the space station relative to the Earth on this simulation. So I'd like your opinion on this, 833-311-1984. How do you feel about the shadow of the space station? 5 Minutes of Fame says, I have a video on my channel, Gravity on the Space Station. No one else caught it. Is that the video where the cosmonaut drops the screw and it clangs noisily on the floor? If that's the one, I'll play it now, because that's one of my favorite clips, one of my favorite bloopers. Okay, what are we seeing here? This is what I've been talking about. This is the type of movie technology that uses something similar to rear screen projection, but what you're really looking at is a series of LED panels that completely immerse you in this simulated environment. And what we're looking at is a movie stage that could easily be the place where they're faking everything. And that's something too. They will be able to, by using this technology, simulate any environment. Reflections and everything. No green screens. The usual stuff we catch them on, we're not going to catch them on. So what we're looking at here is a movie studio. Now, I don't know what movie this is for, because it looks exactly like actual NASA. So this could be a leak. I'll have to find out. And something else. There was a monolith. The other day, there was a monolith found. I believe it was in Utah. Okay, here we go. DPS crew discovers mysterious monolith from the air in a remote Utah wilderness. We are not alone. Mysterious object found in Utah. Now, I'm bringing this up. This is from November the 21st, 2020. Salt Lake City, Utah. The Utah Department of Public Safety helicopter was assisting a wildlife resource officer.
This is a special edition of
when they spotted something from above. So they flew over it. They found it unintentionally. This was not part of their mission. They were counting bighorn sheep. Now, what they found is a 12-foot high object, and it looks like a Space Odyssey obelisk. Now, listen to this. We were there thinking that maybe NASA stuck something up there. Maybe there's a satellite bouncing off of it. They didn't think there was any scientific purpose to it. Maybe it was some kind of art form. He says, I'm assuming it's some form of new wave artist or something. Somebody that was a big 2001 Space Odyssey fan. Now, the reason why this story really stood out to me is that the Space Odyssey 2001, this is a movie from 1968. And I've been talking, since I've been discussing this concept of the metascript, how 1968 has been a template year for 2020. Even the little celebration of the death of Chadwick Boseman corresponding with the celebration of the MLK I Have a Dream speech. We were predicting many things that would be reoccurring elements. The riots, the DNC convention, and this entire summer has almost been a repeat of 68 on many levels. And we're not the first ones to comment on this, but we've been pointing out how these are intentional narrative frameworks. So it just doesn't surprise me that Space Odyssey, a film from 1968, centering around this monolith, this obelisk mysteriously appearing, would have a real-life counterpart happening here in Utah. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like. Again, it's a 12-foot tall...
Captain's log, stardate 11/18/2020. The crew of the Utah DPS helicopter traveled to southern Utah on a mission to count bighorn life forms with wildlife officers.
And he's like, whoa, 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 turn around. And I was like, what? And he's like, there's this thing back there. We got to go look at it.
The crew had spotted an object of unknown origin on the red surface.
Okay, the intrepid explorers go down to investigate the alien life form.
In the middle of the barren desert stood a mysterious metal monolith.
I would say it's probably between 10 and 12 feet high.
It's just wild.
We were kind of joking around that if one of us suddenly disappears, then I guess the rest of us make a run for it. One of us.
So you see that here, it's 12 feet high. They don't know what it's for. Is it some kind of art installation? Well, I think so, but I don't think it's an accident that it's corresponding with 68, which is, again, we'll talk about that particular year and how it relates to 2020 later. Listen to this comment. This is really something straight out of a science fiction movie. Yeah, you think? I mean, look, Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick, 30th anniversary of the Apollo landing. He had Eyes Wide Shut released, where he, even with The Shining, with all these movies, he's always giving away something about what's happening behind the scenes. So it's just not surprising that this would turn up at this time. Not quite sure what it means. I mean, I guess we're the monkeys and we don't know what's going on. Again, this is all just, I think, fake news, and it's part of this bigger Metascript concept. Oh, by the way, yesterday was the 57th anniversary of the JFK assassination. Very interesting bits of news related to the 57th anniversary, and here's something that came up just on this topic. It had to do, and someone kept bringing this up. They said, what's the deal with this Memo 57? So it's probably some QAnon news, right? They said, look up JFK Memo 57. Quite a lot here if you go into this JFK QAnon rabbit hole, because they actually do believe that Trump is an agent of the Kennedys. So there's a number of people talking about this JFK National Security Memo 57, activated by Trump, supposedly to, I don't know, bypass the CIA or something. Anyway, timing of it's interesting. JFK National Security Memo 57 and the 57th JFK assassination anniversary. And you know how they are with numbers. I mean, I found some interesting little things with Trump and the number 58 being very encoded into his life and his various incarnations on the screen. In fact, Michael J. Fox, who may be faking it, according to Rush Limbaugh and others, Michael J. Fox actually came out like a couple of days ago, and he said Donald Trump is Biff Tannen. And here's Biff Tannen looking like a strange amalgamation between, well, Trump and Elvis, I guess. Michael J. Fox has not minced his words when describing President Donald Trump. There have been many phrases used, but what he uses is, Biff is president. Every worst instinct in mankind has been played on by Trump, and that's anathema. Michael J. Fox says, when you see your particular group mocked, it's such a gut punch, it's senseless. There's no way I get up in the morning and mock orange people. Well, he just did. I thought orange was the new black anyway. Like, why do people suddenly orange man bad? Fox, who was diagnosed with a degenerative disorder of the central nervous system back in 1991, went public in 98, but was able to continue acting. Now, I'm going to just skip forward to this. The Back to the Future star spoke about his second retirement in his new book, No Time Like the Future. So This is where the number 58 and Donald Trump connects with this whole narrative of time travel, strangely enough, which is a big part of Donald Trump's backstory. If you look into this metascript and how his persona has been written into the world stage. But there's a number of things about his appearance as Biff Tannen in Back to the Future, which, by the way, anyone who's looked into it, Back to the Future, and all of you probably already know, most of you probably already know this, it's one of the movies that has, I think, the most significant amount of predictive programming about 9/11, years in advance. Which is something I've been bringing up again lately, because we're talking about this seeming scripted reality where major transformative events are planned decades in advance, and there are telltale signs. I've been finding quite a lot. And the symbols, the signs, the anniversaries are objective things that we can analyze. Someone says Justin Bieber performed at the American Music Awards after The Weeknd came out with prosthetics on. Yeah, I thought about that. Someone sent it to me. So if you don't know, it's a very popular conspiracy theory that Justin Bieber is actually deep faking it, wearing a hyper-realistic synthetic mask and portraying himself as Abel. Actually, his name is Abel something, but The Weeknd. So it's like his weekend gig or something. Now, the problem is it's tantamount to blackface, but maybe he's just trying to reach a different demographic. So I'm suggesting that The Weeknd does not exist. And I'm not the first one to suggest this. And I'm not going to go deep into the story, but there is a lot there. In fact, there's one article I think I would point you to if you wanted to look into this at all. And it was a Weeknd article from 2017. The Weeknd is the king of sex pop, GQ. Now, a couple of things about this. At this time, this is when I first looked into it, there was some article about he showed off his arms for the first time in his life. Like, how do you become, well, a massively successful performance artist and never show even, I don't know, your forearms? Nothing. But if you listen to this, this is from GQ, quote, "Here's something weird about The Weeknd. For a long time, The Weeknd didn't want anyone to know who he was. When people first became aware of him, no one knew what he looked like. They didn't even know if he was a person or a group. He was just a unique voice trained in the sacred arts of Michael Jacksonism, disembodied from the human who had possessed it." So when you dig into it, you find that he's kind of a recent invention. And there's some stranger stuff when you get into how many overlapping girlfriends and wardrobes he has with Bieber. Total side topic, but commenter brought up that The Weeknd performed. And I did see when he performed, he was wearing this bizarre headdress. Like, it was like a bandage around his head. Like fake wounds. And I'm like, is he just trying to really distance that? Michael says Justin Bieber performed, and after The Weeknd came out with prosthetics. Yeah, the blood part, right? The bloody stuff. Like, he's portraying the role of someone who just got beat up, like, I don't know, Rodney King or something. I don't quite get it. But his video for Blinding Lights came out long before the lockdowns, and it showed a locked down Las Vegas. And that was one of the songs that the dancing nurses were dancing to. It was part of the Blinding Lights challenge. A lot of predictive programming in that video. The Weeknd wore gloves at the AMA Awards, says Michael. Right, that's because people have noticed the matching hands. Kevin Defoe says Bieber plays 3 roles. No, now look, this is not a path I want to go down necessarily, but I'm just pointing out that you're looking at a Disney creation, and he's not the only one. It's actually kind of widespread if you want to follow this trail. There's every indication that Aisha Curry is also a fictional character portrayed on the world stage. And this is a hard thing for some people to grasp, but you have to think about it like this. You know the actor, you know the movies they play, but they tell you it's a movie. Well, what if they don't tell you it's a movie, and you get snippets of a fictional character's life over a period of time. You're just talking about really a movie played on the world stage, a psyop. And many psyops take the form of soap operas and dramas. It's not always the shootings and the terror attacks. A lot of psyops are apparently meaningless, but not really when you look into how these influencers are used. I mean, Alyssa Milano right now is really a shilling for that COVID crisis actress money. And that was probably her point. I mean, a lot of these actors and actresses, it's like, well, why is COVID? Well, two questions. Why is COVID only killing politicians and celebrities? Second question, if that's the case, why do we care? But really, the answer to the first question is the reason why it's only hitting celebrities and politicians is because they're actors and they're playing roles. So yes, Miley Cyrus, who, by the way, bought a 5-foot pizza for her dad for his birthday, along with drugs and a bubble bath for him and his pizza. I mean, this is what they said. This is what Miley said on a Joe Rogan podcast. She said, "It's my dad's birthday. He lives in the middle of the woods. No internet. I'm going to drop off a 5-foot pizza that I caught, along with some marijuana and a bubble bath." I just thought that's just the strangest thing. I mean, are there even ovens big enough to make a 5-foot pizza? I mean, she caught a 5-foot pizza, and this was on Joe Rogan. So you can make of that what you will. But knowing what I know from WikiLeaks, I kind of suspect that she caught him a slave. What else could it be? Oh, did you know that Governor Cuomo is getting an Emmy? Governor Cuomo is getting an Emmy for his performance over COVID-19. I kind of think we should give one to Kyle Rittenhouse. There's a Taurus World Stunt Award. It's a yearly award ceremony held mid-year that honors stunt performers in movies. It's held each year in Los Angeles. So this was an award created by Dietrich Mateschitz, the founder of Red Bull. Does anybody here know if Gage Grosskreutz has been spotted? Has he attended any protests, or is he still in hiding? A lot of people want to see that arm to know if he is indeed, if he was indeed part of an actual shooting, or if that was something elaborate. And if it's not real, it's one of the most elaborate psyops that we've ever seen. It would probably require something like a lot of crisis actors, a closed set, but you're talking about a closed set in the middle of a city, no walls. So it's really something. But when you look at the money flowing into these places, after the 3 days of riots, Kenosha was given $42 million. And that's a common thing that we see with a lot of psychological operations. I remember after the Charleston shooting hoax, there was something like $29 million dropped off. I mean, really cashing in. That one was a whopper. Do you remember that after Dylan Roof shot up the church, they took him to Burger King for a whopper? And this was just meant to outrage people. Like, look how well he's being treated, this racist killer. I mean, clearly that was, I think, a jab. Just kind of giving away that the thing was a joke. Okay, look at this here. This is a picture. I just noticed something. I mean, I've always seen this, but it's starting to make sense now. Whenever you look at NASA working with their satellites, now we all know this is just bad art. Like this is just symbolism. This is religious art. I mean, it looks like shower curtains and Scotch tape and basically stuff you could find at Home Depot. It's meant to kind of mystify. Religious icons and artifacts are meant for the priests. But the thing I'm drawing your attention to is that they've always worn PPE because humans are too dirty to ascend into heaven. That's probably what it is. But it's actually more about, I think, the high priests. So the high priests of the New Age with our space heaven have already been wearing the PPE garb that we're all being introduced to collectively. And it is the scientists who are the priests in this new paradigm. And the ones who work in the space program are the high priests. the elevated. And that's just something I'm pointing this out because I think we're getting acclimated, into this new age religion where they've replaced all of the components of the old religions with modern counterparts that are far more palatable to people. People who don't believe in sin believe in viruses, and they act puritanical as a result. Now, just to give them the benefit of the doubt, it's possible that many of the dupes working in the space agencies don't know what's really happening with their art projects. I think the only person, though, I think more than likely we're dealing with sellouts. I think the only person who legitimately believes they've ever actually gone into space is probably Don Petit. Have you heard of that show, Space Cadets? It was a British reality TV show where they had 5 people convinced they were in low Earth orbit. And this is how they did it. They had to pre-screen all of the contestants. And here's what they looked for. So you had 10 people, half of them were actors. And the actors were there to keep the people from knowing that this thing was a hoax. So it says, in order for the hoax to stand a realistic chance of succeeding, the cadets would have to remain unaware of the true nature of the show, even given any production mistakes and implausible explanations. Now, this is key, because even though we're talking about people being recruited for a TV show where they're going into space and it's all fake, this pertains to each and every single one of us, because the metascripters, the ones who are formulating our shared worldview, they see us as cadets. We're space cadets on Spaceship Earth. So if we just reread it, in order for the hoaxes to stand a realistic chance of succeeding, the cadets have to remain unaware of the true nature of the show, even given production mistakes and implausible explanations, as in conspiracy theorists. And they don't want conspiracy theorists talking because they find out the thing's a show. So listen to this. Here's how they filter out the inappropriate applicants. Psychological tests to single out highly suggestible, those who conform to groupthink. So, 1, they're choosing sheeple. So groupthink is a psychological phenomenon that occurs when a group of people in which the desire for harmony and conformity results in an irrational decision-making outcome. Oh, like putting a diaper on your face? Physiological tests to determine claustrophobia. Oh, here's another one. So in order to get on this spaceship, you had to dance blindfolded, without music, with others watching, to gauge your inhibition levels. So it says the intention was to obtain a group of cadets who were gullible, conformist, and ignorant about the show's matter. So they're ideally suited for appearing on reality TV. It says also that they sought extroverts, attention seekers, and characters who would catch the public's attention. Now this pretty much, though, it does tell you almost everything about what they seek out of, the regular news consumer. What they're seeking are people who are gullible, conformist, and ignorant about the nature of the show and the show's subject matter, as in they don't know it's fake. All right, let's move on. Again, that was Space Cadets. And there's going to be a new TV show on the ISS, actually. So the ISS is going to have a TV show, and then, of course, you have the Tom Cruise going up to the space station. But listen to this. A show called Space Hero will scour the globe for everyday people who will compete for a 10-day stay aboard the space station. So the only way they can do this is if the people that they pick, the space heroes, are in on the whole thing. I mean, there's no way they're going to be able to hook somebody up to harnesses and let them live in the space station for a few days. But my point is this. Space Cadets was introduced openly as a hoax. So you watched it knowing these people were being duped, which is kind of how the elites watch us. But when this new show comes on, when they spend 10 days on the space station, the public is going to think it's real. And they've been angling for this for some time. I think they need to really do something to cement the existence of the thing, just in the face of all the contradictions that are being pointed out by people like us. A couple things here showing how scripted the world really is. Professional strongman Aaron the Rage Page dies at the age of 33 of COVID-19. Probably fake. Here's another one. Lil Nas's ex-Roblox concert was attended 33 million times. The show gathered 33 million views in total across performances, which started Saturday and wrapped up with an encore. Right. Seems legit. Now this is Ice Cube. Now this is a fascinating one here. This is Ice Cube in a show called Are We There Yet?, where he admits that the CDC uses drills to test their system and that they can falsely put people into quarantine.
Yeah, how serious is this monkey flu? Not serious at all, because it's not true. See, the government likes to covertly test the emergency response system every once in a while to see how people mobilize, the authorities respond, and the public react.
Wait a minute, so this is just a drill?
Exactly. They do it all the time. You remember H1N1?
Yeah.
A drill. Remember SARS? Yeah. A drill. Y'all remember the bird flu? Was a drill too? No, that one was true. Don't mess with them birds. Well, what about my mom? Did they say she was a carrier? Yeah, she just got back from Mexico. She got all kind of symptoms, like cramping, vomiting. Did she drink the water? She said she just had margaritas.
Straight up or blended.
Okay, so you get the point here. He's talking about the drills being used to test the system and that these previous events, like the monkey flu, were fake. And then at the end here, he says, even though it's fake, they have to stay in quarantine because they're not supposed to know.
No, y'all have to stay here. See, the head of the CDC, they the only ones who know it's a drill. So if y'all leave, I'm sorry, they're going to have to take you out.
So we're stuck in this house for 12 more hours?
That's what the cars are for.
You're stuck in the house for 12 more hours. So he laughs about it. He leaves. This is Ice Cube, a show called Are We There Yet? About, again, quarantine under a false premise. In this case, in order to test the system. But who knows what else. I mean, that's pretty much the story. Okay, I have a few voicemails I want to play. Okay, it looks like we have 5 or 6 voicemails. Again, 833-311-1984. We'll start with, I think this is Donnie.
Hey, this is Donnie of the Dead from the Discord server giving you your, monthly COVID update from Southeast Michigan. So our hospitals are not all full. They average about 73% capacity. What's significant about 73% capacity is that's like flu season, and that's like general hospital capacity. They have to keep people in beds to keep the lights on. So surgeries and so forth, we never sit at like 10% capacity ever. If they do, they send half the staff home on a regular basis. And we do see lower numbers in the summertime. So that's when we can be at like 50%.
Okay, he's talking about the whole thing about the capacity limits at the hospital versus what the media is reporting. I mean, I'm getting a lot of film your hospital related calls. A lot of people are doing that. So I'll be getting to that very soon when I revamp the site in the next couple of days. filmyourhospital.com. I'm going to have to update it. 99% of the videos that I archived there have been banned.
Hey, what's up, Tim? Hey, this is Kevin from last night.
Okay, this is a caller. Let me see what he has to say here. Oh, he's talking about this is the December 21st Jupiter-Saturn conjunction.
What was another thing? Oh, so I was looking into the celestial event that's going to happen in the 21st of December, and it's very confusing and complicated. I'm just kind of learning about it myself, but I really feel like if you can understand it, I think that people need to hear from someone that can put it into words that we can understand and we can make sense of it. I really, I don't know very much about astrology, but I am listening to people that seem like they do, and it seems like this event is a huge event, because it is between two solar eclipses. So you had the one in 2017, and then you have the one I think that's coming up in 2024. So this Jupiter, Saturn, retro causality, or this collision that they have, or where they come together, is a really big event. And I don't.
Okay, so he brought this up before. A lot of people are looking at this great conjunction. We'll get into that. I just got this link here. Somebody said that Chris Farley plays the role of a penguin named Spod in Billy Madison. Now, the significance to this. One, Chris Farley, another 33-year-old death faker, most likely, in fact, certainly came back as Rob Ford, Toronto mayor. Had a second death, possibly faked. But apparently he shows up in Billy Madison as a penguin named Spod. And if that's true, it's unusual, because Spod is one of our hashtags, speak penguin or die. Just a reference to, well, the only way to really do anything with this flat earth topic is to go south, or the movement or the concept pretty much dies. So let's go ahead and see.
Holy jeez. Look at what we got here. A silly...
Just remembered why I don't watch movies. Okay, so this is... What's his name? I'm glad I don't remember a lot of the... Adam Sandler. In fact, you know what's funny? Is Adam Sandler, I believe he had like boycotted, or not boycotted, he'd kind of like stepped down from SNL for some time, and he had not made an appearance on Saturday Night Live up until like a year and a half ago. Let me go ahead and bring that up so I can show you what I'm talking about here. Because he went on to talk about Chris Farley. Okay, watch Adam Sandler pay a tribute to Chris Farley, and this was in May of 2019. And again, this was kind of an interesting thing because he hadn't been there for some time. And the reason it's significant is this was right after we started talking about the Chris Farley-Rob Ford connection, which is not a difficult one to kind of reverse engineer. But anyway, let me check out this penguin scene. I want to see if this penguin's name is indeed Spod.
Here I come!
Okay, well anyway. You know, one thing I won't miss. I mean, I hope Hollywood's dead. I hope people have given up on all these disgusting celebrities and this trash. Their movies are so senseless, and it's all brainwashing and propaganda. There's no really reason to watch it at all. It's all just to conform you. The entertainment is a side effect of the brainwashing. Kevin Defoe says, did you know that Laura Silsby tried to smuggle 33 kidnapped kids from Haiti? No, I didn't. Laura Silsby tried to smuggle 33 kidnapped kids. I kind of think I remember hearing something about, was she an, yeah, this is the one. Found it. Idaho woman. Now, Idaho woman says she was trying to help, but yeah, she was illegally abducting 33. What is with that number? You know, just the other day, some 33-year-old called into the Rush Limbaugh show, crying about how he's ready to die for Trump if he has to. Side topic, but okay, so that's fascinating. She said she was trying to help, but the Haitian government is accusing Laura Silsby and 9 other American missionaries with illegally abducting 33 children. So that's kind of concerning. Not sure what came of it, but again, an Idaho woman, that kind of strikes me as interesting, because if you look at Idaho, and this was something that just came to my attention this summer, it definitely looks like, well, if you look at the picture of Idaho, you have to see for yourself, it looks like Joe Biden's profile. Like when he's sniffing. Like it's literally that. Okay, I have a few more voicemails I want to play. But I'm going to go ahead and open phones. Anybody else wants to call in, 833-311-1984. But yeah, it's pretty clear. If you look at Montana and Idaho, it's clearly Joe Biden. Don't know how they pulled that off. Is that a Mandela effect, or was it always like that? There are Mandela effects that affect geography, apparently. They say that South America used to be right below North America, and then it moved. And it shifted or something. Okay, so let's go back to the topic of the day. So many things. We're talking about this. Well, Kyle Rittenhouse being out, that's kind of an interesting thing. I think it's part of a broader story. His attorney is very popular right now, and he's one of the major proponents of the notion that the election has been stolen. And it's such a huge divide. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, good morning, Tim.
Hey, what's up? Hey, 1 second here. There you go. What topic are you calling on?
I probably could think of 3 or 4, but we'll start off with post-election, the state of America, I guess the world too, because whatever we do here kind of affects the whole world.
Right. Well,
so where's the president? I'm actually getting nervous because I'm like, where is the president? This guy's been all over TV for like the last 5 years or whatever, and I haven't seen him like anything new where he's getting out there and kind of defending his position. Haven't seen it. What do you think is going on?
Oh, yeah, it's probably strategic. How many days has he been missing? 17? I mean, I think it's all a game. I kind of think it's written in advance, the outcome. So what I actually expect, and I've said this a few times, and I actually put my money on this on BetMoose, I think that it's meant to divide the country and to create such a schism that the left will hate the right and we won't unite against the medical tyranny. And the way they'll accomplish this is they're going to let Trump take it after the left steals it fair and square.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like what could we use to predict the future. I'm in my early 40s, so I grew up with like Star Trek Next Generation in the 90s, and that was like a lot of programming. You know, I remember being like a teenager. Not everybody had cell phones yet, and I remember like watching Star Trek back in the day and said, they've been showing us these communicators for 20 years and we still don't have them yet. And it was like funny, like 5 years later, everybody had a cell phone. So there are some things that they showed us in that show, years ago that come to reality, like one little bit at a time. So I'm guessing eventually we're all going to end up having to fight the board. That's what's coming.
Now, have you seen the Back to the Future series where Donald Trump is clearly written into the character Biff Tannen?
Yeah, I saw them all in the theater, every one of them.
Okay, now check this out. This is why I think that this stuff goes way far back. There's a show, a Western, that came out in 1958. And the release date was May 9th, 1958. And the episode was called End of the World, about a guy named Trump who becomes a leader, builds a wall, and they kill him. That was 1958. Well, 58 years later, he becomes president. And then what's weirder is Quantum Leap, the time travel show, has an episode that takes place.
That show. I used to watch it when I was a kid. Quantum Leap, that was a good show.
Well, they have a show where the episode date is May 10th, 1958. And in that episode, Donald Trump appears with his father, and he's only 12 years old.
I think did you play a clip of it? No, maybe I found a clip of it. I think I just went on YouTube and typed something like Donald Trump the Time Traveler, and I think I found like just a 3-second clip of the Quantum Leap episode. So yeah, that's pretty weird.
Oh yeah, and then
another weird thing about that show is I was thinking about it. I said, yeah, on that show when I was a kid, he was always talking to his hologram buddy. Now, that show was like 1985. I'm like a little kid at that time. And he's like talking to his hologram, and his hologram buddy is holding this thing all the time. Like, he was like, hey, we got to figure out what's going on. We got to find out, He's always trying to like solve the case or something. try to like fix the future. That thing he had in his hand was like a smartphone. They were showing us smartphones back in like 1985, and now everybody has one. It's pretty weird.
Oh, that's a great point. And that's kind of prescient because, not even The Matrix and other futuristic films caught the smartphone as the next development. They were still using landlines, when the author of that series predicted the future. But the thing is, yes, Donald Trump has been written into the world stage back for decades. And it's timed with it's coordinated with numerology. For example, 58...
I had the Donald Trump board game in like 1987. There was like just a board game, like Trouble the Pop-O-Matic Bubble. There was like the Donald Trump edition. Something, it wasn't Trouble, but it was something like a game, a card game. I don't remember. But we had it in my house. So yeah, Trump's been like a household name my whole life. He's been part of pop culture.
That's right, exactly. So like, there's no way you escaped him. So he's in this show in 58, and then 58 years later, he becomes president. Then 1985 is the year where Back to the Future takes place, where he's Biff Tannen, and it shows a future Donald Trump as president. And they consciously made it about him. Then you have the Baron Trump Time Traveler series, which has all kinds of weird coincidences. But my point is,
creepy.
Between 58 and his election is 58 years. And do you know how many stories Trump Tower is?
No idea. 85 floors.
That was my guess. Actually, it's 58.
I have no.
58. Plus, he was 58 when he married Melania. So it's called the Trump 58 Matrix. And what it is just all these startling coincidences, highly indicative of a person who was planted here to play a specific role.
Just a little while ago, you were saying everything on TV now sucks. It's funny how we can all rattle off all these great pop culture movies, Indiana Jones, all this stuff that came out when we were kids. Like, I don't know anything that's new. I don't know anything really past like 2005. Everything's like garbage now. I'll try to watch a movie every once in a while, and I can only make it like 15 minutes, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna go back on the internet and see, because I guess I could, browse 3 or 4 subjects, at the same time. I could listen to this. I could watch a little documentary, then I could switch to something else. And like the old media just sucks. The old news sucks.
Good point. Old media sucks.
Funny.
I was watching Blade Runner with some friends, and I was embarrassed because I recommended it. And I'm like, wow, this is so boring, so ugly, so god-awful. What a waste of time. And it was boring, but they had a captive audience. But yeah, really, so much garbage out there. And that's why I hate having to dig back through this stuff, but I mostly get it through clips. Newer stuff, Netflix, I've watched a lot of stuff on Netflix to predict the future, and you can tell it's far more overtly political than ever. It's practically a documentary, propaganda, and entertainment mixed into one. It's really just a sick amalgamation, and they don't even hide it anymore, that it's just purely agenda-driven.
Yeah, sometimes I'm having a hard time figuring out if this world is actual physical reality, or are we stuck in some kind of ginormous holodeck? I guess it wouldn't really even have to be that big if they really had holodecks. I mean, it could just be like the size of it could be like a really big Chuck E. Cheese for grown-ups in the future. Just like all the walls are moving. Just like you were talking about, like there's the new technology, like where they're getting rid of blue screens and green screens. So, like I was saying with Star Trek, Next Generation, Picard, all that cool stuff in like 94, every once in a while he would just go take a trip in the holodeck, the captain. He would be like James Bond and stuff, or what was it? Not James Bond. He would be like Sherlock Holmes and stuff, trying to solve the case. And sometimes I look at our world and I'm like, what if I'm just a character stuck in the holodeck? I'm not even the main character, just a little blip, like an NPC. I don't want to be an NPC, but I got a question. How do I know?
Have you looked at Westworld? That TV series. I think it's HBO.
Yeah, it's a really good show. I watched that. That's about it. There hasn't. You were asking the other day, like, does anyone still watch The Walking Dead? There's like probably 3 or 4 shows that I watched. I've watched all of Westworld, The Walking Dead. It's a good show.
So the Westworld has this concept of NPCs finding out what they are, that they're not the main players and they're not in control, and then that the people who go to Westworld are able to do whatever they want, and they're stuck in something like it's sort of a Matrix thing, right? The Westworld concept. But the thing about Westworld is you have the creators around a table, which is a miniature, a scale model of where all these NPCs are. And to me, that reminds me of the Hunger Games, where you have the elite gathered around a table and they can influence what happens on the actual game board. Same with Clash of the Titans, the gods around a circular table. And that's such a reoccurring symbol that, yeah, sometimes I think we're in if not a simulation in any metaphysical sense, but yeah, we're in a false paradigm. And, who knows? But I just get the feeling that it's run by people who aren't among us.
Yeah, Clash of the Titans. That's another good movie. I even like there's the old Clash of the Titans from the 80s, and then there was another Clash of Titans came out in the early 2000s. Either way, if we're just an electronic simulation, or even if we're like a simulation of flesh, meaning maybe our whole world is real, but it's just kind of owned by like these, 20 gods fighting and playing with our world. Maybe not even fighting. Maybe it's just like their entertainment world. And I started thinking the other day, it's like maybe we're the actual currency, the people. Like we're like those social security numbers. Those are like receipt numbers. Those are ownership numbers, and we're the currency. And maybe they can take us over every once in a while. Like so, when you hear about like MK Ultra stuff, and people just start doing funny shit, and then they don't remember it. Maybe the gods just took you over, play with you for a little while.
These are interesting ideas. The concept of possession is very fascinating to me. Last night, somebody brought up the idea, I think it was a caller, who thinks that the elite have some technology to reincarnate into new cloned bodies. It sounds insane, but they're talking about a science behind transplanting consciousness itself. And that's kind of analogous to the idea of AI, of finding some way to house disembodied consciousness in a physical receptacle. And that is it's one of these areas where it's sci-fi, but magic kind of crosses the same territory. In fact, the guy who wrote The Matrix, William Gibson, wrote a book called Count Zero about spirits in the voodoo pantheon mixing into cyberspace in the future and possessing people the same way Agent Smith would.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, science fiction, though. Science fiction has always been one of these areas where it's a mix of, I think, predictive programming and pretty much just telling us in a new paradigm what they're really into. So much sci-fi just seems to be a cover for something else. So what do you think about the prospects of shipping people into simulated Mars bases underground? You think they're ready to pull that off? The public's sufficiently brainwashed?
Yeah, of course. I don't know who would want to go though. I don't know if like people still have that, the exploration spirit. Like who really? Why would you want to see the stars? They keep telling us that there's nothing out there. That's the weirdest thing about space is like, wouldn't you think if it's as old as they say, when you look out in space, you should just see like flying cities everywhere, but there's nothing out there. So that's when I look kind of like that's all got to be fake, or there's just nothing there. That's not even there. Could all just be a hologram. I had like this idea the other day. I was like, what if you could like just freaking make it towards the ice wall? And you just like go right through, no problem, like a hologram. Like it's not even there. So it's like a big pixelated hologram. And on the other side, God knows what. I mean, like you said, it could just be more land.
Yeah, I think that's more likely.
What if it's like the future?
Given the nature,
like the future.
Well, if greed is the main thing,
we're on the village. Yeah, we're on the village. That's where we are. We think it's 1775, but out there it's actually a whole modern world. And that's a fun idea to try to think, geez, what the hell is out there? What if it's like actually the year 3500 or something? Something ridiculous. And so then why did they invent this world? That's even a really fun game to play, because then you can think in your head, there's at least 5 different reasons somebody would make this place. One, we wanted to make it because we hate the outside world, just like the village. We wanted somewhere kind of peaceful where it's always 1985. Or we could be their entertainment. We could be like their TV show and they're just watching us for shits and giggles. That's another option. I don't know.
Now
What do you think?
that one sounds very consistent with the character of the gods, especially if you look at the Homeric epics like the Iliad, or the gods are cruel. They laugh at man. They mingle. They can't. Yeah, and they can't keep their hands off human. So to me, I kind of think it could just be not necessarily a cruel joke, but I don't know. There's something like the demiurge concept that sometimes I wonder. There's something so diabolical about the use of psychological operations to manipulate billions that, yeah, I think there's something else here. And let's say that you're right, and that we're in the village, and that they're far more advanced if you make the exit. That's quite an incentive to GTFO, because you probably can get your hands on life extension or who knows what.
Yeah, Elysium. I was thinking in Elysium, like that's like the moon. That's like the other side of the moon. I have a hard time with the moon. It's like you never see, like, if you're into art, like I know you're an artist. I used to do a lot of art when I was a kid, and you learn about perspective early on. None of these moon shots ever, like you don't ever see miles and miles and miles of distance of perspective. No, it looks like a freaking stage the size of a auditorium. That's it.
Yes, because the old school rear screen projection and even their original moon landing footage, that was all done in a small area trying to give the illusion of depth. But there was no accurate parallax with the distant land features. And so, yeah, it looked very compressed and there was no moonscapes. But the new stuff they're going to do when they get back on the moon, it's not going to be like that. We're going to see miles of moonscapes. And it's going to be impossible to debunk.
You know what I hope it is? Like if there's all this different predictive programming and something that we've seen in the last 20 years in pop culture is about to happen, I wish it were The Walking Dead. Oh, that'd be great. If like everybody was just like getting this little tickle in the back of their throat, like, cause like we're all already infected. And then just one day you're going to be driving to work, driving downtown, and you're going to see some Walking Dead. That would be awesome. I don't know about like World War Z super running zombies. Wouldn't be cool. We wouldn't stand a chance. But I mean, if you gave me like a katana and a samurai sword or something like that, Walking Dead, that would be pretty cool. If I could pick, I don't think it'll ever happen, but if I could pick, that would be the fun. And you know what our gang would be? There's always gangs on that show. Our gang would be the Penguins. We'd all wear badass masks to it like penguins.
Well, look, I've looked at all these various movies, and one thing, the newer iterations, and even George Romero, who did Night of the Living Dead, and Night of the Living Dead, by the way, that came out in 1968. Another interesting 1968 film that has relevance in 2020 for a few reasons, but that movie was the first to feature a black lead character, and he was killed at the end by the rednecks, who didn't even bother to check if he was a zombie. They just shot him. And that was, of course, the year that MLK was shot, and people thought it was a very sinister or twisted thing, or it was just to draw some attention. But whatever it is, in that movie, the dead were like the dead. But in the newer ones, like World War Z, they move like the Terminator. And it's like they kind of destroyed the whole concept, and I think George Romero had some issues with that, because the zombies are supposed to be a certain way. But what we have right now, though, it's not really zombification. It's more like invasion of the body snatchers than anything.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's a good one right there. I just thought about that. It's weird how in I Am Legend with Will Smith, man, talk about a crazy actor. This guy has fought off zombies, aliens, artificial intelligence. I mean, that guy should run for president in another 20 years, because he's already faced all the worst that nature can throw at us. But in I Am Legend, that was the first time I ever heard of the concept of somebody or scientists using a disease to battle another disease. Like in the beginning of the movie, they said, well, we're trying to defeat cancer with a modified measles or rabies. Well, yes. Now, 20 years later, they're saying, well, yeah, we're trying to engineer viruses or whatever to battle other viruses. I'm like, Jesus, how long is it going to be before we get those I Am Legend vampires? We're going to be screwed.
Well, I think it was in 28 Days Later, the virus was like they had isolated the hate gene or something, and it turned everybody wild or something. You know, the zombie movies have been a mainstay for a reason. It's all propaganda, and it sets the premise of this universal enemy that can be anybody, and the government has to step down. And I think that's one of the big scams. And right now, the movies are all kind of the same. They're all pretty much post-pandemic. There's a movie right now about COVID-23, and it looks like a horror movie about being locked down and the police going into people's homes and seizing them. It's like they couldn't create it in real life, but if they can create the impression of it on TV, the quarantined people will think it's really happening like that. Because I mean, were you listening to this channel back during the Film Your Hospital period of time? You know, March, April, May.
This year I started listening again around July.
Because
I was following you back in 2017. I stopped listening for a bit. I think you just disappeared and I didn't know how to find you. But this year I found you around July.
Okay, because the thing is, we were looking at the Film Your Hospital phenomenon because you had all these nurses just twerking and dancing and fooling around in the hospitals, and it was so widespread that, you know, eventually people figured out that nothing was really happening to correlate with the news. But as long as people were quarantined, the illusion worked. You would look out your window if you lived near a hospital and you would see tents outside, like they were so full that they needed more room outside, which is a ridiculous notion, but empty tents everywhere convinced people of it. So I'm just saying that, you know, whatever they put on the TV replaces reality for the people who never leave their homes. And this virus meme has just been like a mainstay of sci-fi for so many years that nobody's ever really questioned it. So what's your stance on that, by the way? Do you think it's exaggerated or altogether fake?
What, the virus?
Yes.
I don't know if any viruses ever existed. Now I'm wondering, you know, is any of that true? You know, that germ theory is true. It goes back to another movie, 12 Monkeys, where Bruce Willis is in the nut house. It's a time travel, ends up in a nut house. He's talking to the Brad Pitt character, and he first talks about Semmelweis. I was like the first guy to say, hey, you know, there's these germs, and nobody believed him at the time. And I couldn't imagine that, you know, 25 years later, now I'm actually questioning the germs even exist. I mean, I own a microscope, not a really, really great one, but good enough to like look at like maybe an amoeba size something or other, but you can't see viruses under anything like that.
Right. It's almost like a superstition analogous to demonology or something. And I think that's the case. You know, we're given this notion that people used to use superstitious explanations for scientific things or things that science would later discover. But what I'm actually finding more often than not is that superstition is masquerading as science. Because, I mean, look at the power of the existence of a virus to reshape the world. How convenient for all the authoritarians who can now regulate every single person and monitor and track their every transaction. And it's remarkable. And it's a complete reset of society based on this invisible threat that has a practically 0% chance of killing you. If you know, I mean, this is the other thing too. Where's the bodies? You know, if people saw bodies, maybe this thing would work for a long time. But I don't know. This caused me to become such an absolute skeptic that I'm actually doubting the very existence of viruses themselves.
I can't get sick. I cannot get sick. Let me tell you, I lick my fingers. I put my hands on my face. The more they tell me not to do it, I'm going to do it just to see. Would I get a cold? Would I get a sore throat? And this is like the first year of my life, I can honestly say, we're almost in December. It's almost the end of the year, and I haven't missed a day of work. I mean, this is supposed to be the apocalypse, right? I mean, it's supposed to be like the time people are supposed to get sick, and I haven't gotten a cold anything all year. I've done some nasty shit where I thought I was going to get sick, and I won't.
So, do you think 2020 is as bad as everybody says it is, or have you been having a more or less good year aside from the psychodramas?
I mean, everything that sucks about 2020 is engineered. They made it happen to us, but we didn't have any hurricanes this year in Florida, in this part of Florida. No crazy storms. I mean, overall, I worked every day. I made money. Yeah, everything that bad that happened was either on TV, on the news, or government is making it happen. There's no natural catastrophes happening in my part of the world. I don't know.
Right. It's mostly a perception thing. I think it's a psy war. And the mask is something that makes it real. And I don't even stress about it. To me, there are more important things to worry about. But I actually think that the mask is a psychological prop analogous to the post 9/11 flags. And the main purpose of it is virtue signaling. One was to make you more patriotic, and the other one's to make you stand in solidarity with the global government. But it's the same kind of ploy. And everybody had like a compulsory let's roll American flag bumper sticker after 9/11. And you didn't speak out against the country. You might as well put a American flag bumper sticker over your mouth. So to me, the mask is just a way to signal compliance, but I don't really think it's going to stick around. And so I don't really feel that 2020 is as bad as anybody is really saying it is.
Yeah, let's hope 2021's better. I'm still trying to figure out if I can trust what's happening with the president. I mean, there'll be like times where I go through moods where I love the guy more than anything. Like, have I really succumb to the mind manipulation? For our side, there's like competing frequencies out there trying to like own your mind and take over your mind, possess you, like you were saying. And there'll be times I love this president, and then it's like, wait a minute. Maybe they got me. Maybe they got me with their funny radar. God knows. Is he gonna fix this damn country? Because I mean, like, I don't hate everything about the left, but what they've turned into. Like, look, Democrats from 20 years ago, I didn't hate them, but now it's pretty much turning into: are you a globalist or not a globalist? I'm not a globalist. I'm for freedom.
Right.
So,
and I want to make that clear too.
Do we have anybody fighting for us?
Just because somebody has a different political opinion doesn't mean you hate them. A lot of people get so polarized, and it's like, I don't really hate any Antifas or Democrats or protesters or whatever. I just like, we're analyzing this thing objectively, and so that's not really where I'm coming from. But yeah, when I'm looking at this big story here, it's kind of like, well, is Trump a rogue? Is he opposing the New World Order? He seems to be in certain areas. You look at the Paris Accord. You look at how flippant he is about the global warming scam. He admits the scam meant to economically cripple people. So I could see why people would, put some measure of faith in him. It's certainly a better option than Biden. But as far as getting emotionally enraptured in the whole thing and getting ready for civil war, I don't know. I'm reaching for my popcorn, not my ammo.
I think you should have a combination. You should have a combination of Glock magazines, boxes of 9, because it's like a good intermediate round. You can store lots of it. You should have a machete. You should have a tomahawk, and you should have bags of popcorn, maybe some tuna fish, and just in case.
Okay, wait. You brought up a machete. So I was watching very closely a lot of the violence on the riots, and I saw an individual with a machete running out to defend a bar that he liked. And they took him down with rocks, and once they took him down, they kicked him until he was just contorted like a pretzel or something. So I was like, well, how do you deal with mobs in close quarters? Because one thing I realized about mobs is that the individuals who are part of a mob no longer worry about their individual safety. They become part of a Borg, like Voltron or something. And I think
I don't know. I live somewhere where there's more of us than there are of them. I hate to say it, in the part, it doesn't even matter if I tell you where, but in this part of the country, there's more patriots. So there would never be a riot here. If it happened, you would see just regular people getting out of their cars Everybody's armed. We have some of the best gun laws in the country, and there's no crime here. I mean, compared to other places I've lived, it's a very safe place. So we don't take any shit in this part of the country. I'm always armed. Usually today, when I go out into the world, I have 2 guns on me. I have a full-size Glock in my, my bulbs, and then I'll have, Swall 380 in my pocket because the world is that dangerous. And then a backpack with at least 6 loaded magazines in it, just because the world is nuts. Not that I have the will to do any harm, but if you pull me out of my truck, I'm going to go out shooting. You're not going to stop my head in. Hell no. But that doesn't happen in this part of the world.
That's one thing that I did see as well. The people who thought that they could argue with the mob, like, so they're at your car. It doesn't matter what party they're a part of. If it's an angry mob, it's not like you can debate with them. And if you don't have overwhelming force, you pretty much lose. So yeah, you're better off with guns than a machete. I think the best option, of course, is to obviously avoid those types of things anyway. But
don't even move to those parts of the world where that's a possibility. You think I'm going to go to Detroit? Never in a million years. You think I'm going to go to Portland? No way. Where I live here, it's pretty damn safe because everybody knows that everybody else is carrying too. So you'd be foolish to start shit.
Yeah, Portlandia is a mess. And that's an interesting thing too. Chazistan, Portlandia, just watching it this summer live, it was like watching Animal Farm, where you saw...
We have the right to shoot looters here. Our governor just passed a law where you have the right to shoot looters. If somebody tries to pull you out of the car, you don't have to explain anything. The cops aren't going to say... They're not going to say what happened here. They're going to know there was a riot and you were defending your life,
Wait a minute. You can
our governor's pretty kick-ass here.
You can go Kyle on it. So what does that mean exactly? Like, so there's a riot downtown. It means that if you have a business there and they're in your business, I mean, because clearly they wouldn't want people actually going out there.
Shooting from the rooftops. You start shooting from the rooftops, just like the Dawn of the Dead remake when they're on top of the mall with bolt actions. We have the right to do that shit here.
Interesting. Well, to me, the whole thing was so scripted and planned. A lot of the looters and rioters were bussed in, and clearly, I think it's just it's an election year strategy, and I wouldn't be surprised if Trump wasn't. Well, I don't know. I don't say he paid for it, but I will say I think he benefited from the riots because it gave people a pretty clear dilemma where you have to choose law and order or chaos and revolution. And that's not a hard decision for working people to make.
Yeah, I'm for order, man. I'm all for order. I mean, there's a time for a little bit of chaos. That's like what video games are for. We all have this urge inside of us, like an animal to just punch something sometimes, Sometimes I think to myself, if we were all alive at any other time in history, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, what would your chances of making it to full adulthood and never having to kill another human being? Maybe it's just part of nature, and that doesn't happen anymore. Our world is so safe, and it's causing some kind of like reaction, like maybe that's where certain personality disorders come from, because we don't even have the ability to express our instincts anymore. Almost like if you took a chimpanzee and put him in a zoo, he would be like rocking and shaking in the corner because you put him in a concrete cage. He can't climb a tree like a natural chimp or whatever. That's what's happening to people today.
I think you're right.
I think you're become tame.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, and I think that this is one of the things I've been following here. It's the meta-scripted storyline. Like you got the Derek Chauvin and the George Floyd drama. These dramas, I think, are playing on existing tensions that they create. And so I do think that that when I say they, I mean whoever's controlling the media. I think they believe that they can convince people that they are indeed, violent, and that that's the way life is supposed to be. I think that's kind of like misinformation and slander. Like they want us to think that we're inherently violent were it not for the state. But I don't think that the human. All the zombie movies kind of suggest the same thing. Like if the government shuts down, we're instantly going to become cannibals. Like aside from Alex Jones, most people don't think that way.
I got to go to work, Jim. I'm going to tell you right now, this show, Infinite Plane Society, is in my top 3 favorite things about the internet. I don't know what the other two are. I'd have to sit and think about it for a minute. But this show, I don't watch TV anymore. Everything's boring. I'll watch little clips of things, and I always come back to this. I'll listen or watch it for a couple hours, go do something else. It's always there. You're always in rotation. And I think you're doing a really great job. Long live the Infinite Plane Society. You have a nice day, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it very much. Have a great day. Join us on Thanksgiving. We're premiering South Pole. We appreciate the call. Good night.
You know it.
All right. Caller has to get to work, and an essential worker, obviously. And yes, on Thanksgiving, we are premiering South Pole. So if you go to infiniteplanesociety.com, I have a blog post. It says, South Pole season premiere, 11/26. I brought this up earlier. I'll put a link in the chat. It's going to be a weekly cartoon. If you want to get on the waiting list, it's not going to air for 3 more days. If you're in our Discord server, it's always in production. We're actually working on episode 2 as we speak, so you can get involved. We need voice artists, meme artists, illustrators, animators, writers, meme techs, really anybody with anything that they would like to enter into it. The whole thing has a musical score. There's music, and it's eminently bannable. It's as offensive as could possibly be. Imagine if, well, I'll let you make up, I'm not going to give you any spoilers. That's the whole thing. I don't want to set your expectations, but yeah, it's going to be in 3 days. Okay, I have another voicemail here. It looks like a bit of numerology. Let's take a look.
So 239 days is a number that came up. And like I said, it was 239 days from 3/11 until 11/9. And that was the day 11/9 that they came out and they said they had the vaccine. So I kind of looked at they bird like their savior, their savior for, the world religion. And then I saw a bunch of bizarre coincidence today about 239, and the date in which we had our last solar eclipse was, I think it was 9/23/17. So again, you have the 239 in there with the 9/23.
Okay, interesting. I'm going to have to look at a calendar here, but look, there are some alignments that they do go by the day. We were looking at this peculiar thing back in July. It was actually July the 13th, where there were 3 different 33-year-olds who were killed on the same day, which happens to be 113 days from November the 3rd, or 113. A number of strange alignments like that. And you can find other things, like, for example, after September the 11th, 2001, exactly 911 days later, you had the 3/11 attacks in Madrid. Or you have, on the 19th anniversary of 9/11, 19 million recoveries from COVID, 911 deaths. Much more as well. Rudy says, cannot wait. It's going to be epic. South Pole. Yeah, South Pole is a concept we started working on actually a couple years ago. We kind of came up with it, but now we actually have a team of animators working around the clock. It's a lot of fun. Again, we need all the writers we can get. We're trying to do this every week. And as you'll see in the Discord server, if you go to the South Pole section, we're definitely keeping it topical. All right, let us go ahead and continue. Yeah, I'm not going to give any spoilers. Okay. I got so many damn memes, but I don't want to get lost. Okay, AMA says racism is a threat to public health. So the 3 pillars of the New World Order Church, these are 3 things that you have to accept. It's like a trifecta. What you have is global warming, the pandemic model, and systemic racism. Global warming is your eschatology, your judgment, your wrath of God. Virus, the pandemic model, is the sin. COVID-19 is your devil. And systemic racism is how they've redefined evil. And this is the evil they need to purge from the world. So this is all, again, a religious overhaul of society. That's why they say if you're not wearing your mask, you're being, quote, selfish. They're converting people into a collectivist mindset where your selfish interests take a back seat to the collective. So that's where we are headed with this new church. And systemic racism, if you ask me, is a conspiracy theory. It's a leftist conspiracy theory. And they're always calling others conspiracy theorists, but this is a big one. And it's very damaging because, much like blood libel, it assumes a certain group of people are inherently damaged, evil, biased, in need of a cure, in need of re-education. It's a deep slander here. So it says, as physicians and leaders in medicine, we are committed to optimal health for all, and we're working to ensure that people and communities reach their full potential. Recognizing race as a social construct, we will have additional moves to promote anti-racist practices, support the end of the practice of... Anyway, this is, to me, politicizing science. And it's all part of this medical tyranny anyway, where your scientists are now able to talk about right now they're actually having a huge impact on free speech. Like your thoughts, your opinions are now a threat to public health. There's actually a blogger. His name is, well, I don't even want to say his name, but there's this blogger who accused me or blamed me for deaths. He blamed me and Infinite Plane Radio for COVID-19 deaths. That people who are dying because they don't believe it or they don't believe it's real and it's my fault. I mean, that would be like saying that, oh, well, Christopher Hitchens, an atheist, caused people to turn away from the church and so God punished them. Like, how does he know? How do you establish that I'm somehow responsible? And a lot of it's on them. The ones who wear the masks and still leave their houses. The ones who drive with their masks on. The ones who believe that they're super spreaders and agree with the lockdowns. Like, if you agree with the lockdowns, you should never leave your house. And I don't see any legitimate fear anymore. I remember when this thing first started, I would see people's eyes and they would look a little leery of everybody. Now, I don't see any fear. Now it's almost a smugness. You know, it went from fear to embarrassment. Now they're smug. You know, it's just a series of transitions that people went through to where they're part of the new normal and they're no longer actually afraid of anything. I don't see it. It's one of those things you can't even prove it. You can talk about the damned souls in hell who didn't get saved. They didn't get vaxxed before they died, so they couldn't get to heaven or whatever. You know, these are just metaphysical threats. You know, you're angering God by not recycling, so you're going to get global warming. You know, these are just threats playing upon primal fears. Fear of the sky is a big one. You know, I always notice the dog starts shaking and hiding whenever there's clouds because they know it's going to rain. It's a very primal thing. You know, it's just they instinctively go into this response mode. Okay, I have to get cover. And I think it's the same with human beings, that we're threatened with very primal things. And you saw how people responded with the race to stock up on toiletries. There's some kind of nesting instinct, but it's all about tapping into deep insecurities. You know, I've pointed out before that to me the vax is nothing more than the holy sacrament to get you into the New World Church. Separates the saved from the unsaved, those who accept the priests versus those who don't, those who accept the MSM, which is the World Church, and those who have left the World Church. In a way, this is something of an apostasy, like a new reformation. And the people who are anti-vax or who are rejecting the lockdown measures, in a way, represent Protestants. And it's that big of a split. It's that big of a divide. This morning I was actually watching videos of people burning their masks, and I saw this video where it must have been 30 or 40 people gathered around a bonfire, and they were chanting, burn the mask, and they were throwing the masks into the fire. It might have been out there at Huntington Beach, where, I mean, people are protesting the lockdowns. The media is kind of ignoring it. And it's not Antifa. Antifa's not taking off their masks and burning their masks. No, they're still wearing their ISIS costumes. Now they're carrying shields. And, you know, I watched a video with Antifa beating their shields with their black police garb, police state garb. And I'm like, wait a minute. When did Antifa become SWAT teams? They literally have. Well, I was watching the mask burners, and it got me thinking about this thing called the Black Mass, which, I mean, there are various forms of it, but the one I'm speaking of is a form of parody of the Catholic Mass. And the purpose of it, as far as it was practiced by the Hellfire Club, was to get people to break the spell of the priesthood over their minds. So they would realize, well, if you read the Lord's Prayer backwards, you're not going to get struck by lightning. They engaged in blasphemy. They burned Bibles, etc., because they were rejecting the worldview, and they were doing so in a cathartic way. Like if you can imagine smashing your TV set or something. So in a way, it was a spell-breaking thing. It wasn't actually venerating the devil or something. But anyway, you get the idea of, you know, the Inquisition hunting people. Did you attend a black mass? You know, like in the Crucible. You know, did you attend these rites? Did you cavort with the devil? And they have to contact trace anybody who might actually be part of the coven, because they could contaminate the sheeple. So the Inquisition's job is to keep the sheep pure. Well, the sheep are the vaxxed. The people who are carriers, the super spreaders, who don't wear the masks, who don't take the vax, which is like a communion, well, they're the ones who are of the devil. And of course, a virus is the new sin, and they're not fearing the devil. They're not actually taking the precautions, so now they're a threat to everybody else. Heretics, you could say. But anyway, I'm looking at the mask burning, and I'm thinking, well, they're going to have to be contact traced. You know, these are people who are flaunting the lockdown measures, not wearing the masks, not social distancing, and they're talking. I mean, the scientists say that speaking spreads COVID. Shouting spreads COVID. Okay, let me see here. And look, that's one more thing too. You're rejecting the state church. You're an apostate, and that's why they hate so much. The reason why the ones who are protesting the lockdowns, are hated by the media. Meanwhile, the people who are protesting the police are not hated by the media. Well, the reason why, it's pretty clear. It's the political left and their protests. They're actually on the side of the medical tyranny and the scientists as authorities, and the right isn't. I mean, it's such a perfect divide what they've done. Ron Valentini says they found an obelisk in Utah as per the third phase of the moon. Yeah, I brought that up earlier because it looks exactly like the obelisk from Space Odyssey 2001, which came out in 1968. 33 years, you know, between 1968 and the Twin Towers falling. A lot of interesting things, though, from 1968 worth bringing up right now in context. But there was a very intentional effort by the mass media to recall to the public's mind and have everyone relive 1968 in particular. It's not the only year. People have found a number of we've been finding a lot of really strange things or patterns. Predictive programming is just the beginning of it. You know, what movie aren't we living through right now? You know, Running Man, for sure. The Purge, The Division, a Tom Clancy. We're living in a Tom Clancy movie. A Dark Winter is what we're moving into. So the Dark Winter concept is, I guess it has to do with blackouts and some sort of cyber equivalent of COVID-19. Some kind of some type of a computer virus. And they've made these correlations anyway. Notice how often they refer to misinformation as being a virus. It's going viral. And we can't let that meme go viral, or that meme, it's funny, but it contains misinformation. So it's said to have bad virality. Okay, I'm going to move on. I just wanted to bring this up. It's just really disconcerting, I think, that you have medical professionals now pontificating on systemic racism. It's like, why don't they stick to treating disease? And it's all because they are the new priesthood. And like I said, the new concept of sin is the virus, but also evil is actually now systemic racism. It's been a long multi-generational process to get people to move away from traditional religions and join the Church of the New World Order, but people largely have. And if you accept the premise of global warming, virus, systemic racism, you're in that church. And if you accept space travel as a reality and probably an eventuality, well, then that's also an indication you're totally immersed in this thing, because outer space is actually a metaphysical construct. It's how they rebranded heaven for the atheists. The atheists think they're going to heaven, but they call it outer space. And what do they get up there? Well, transhumanism, life extension, sustainability, maybe get your mind uploaded to the cloud. All the old promises that the religions would offer to their believers, the true believers, have been offered again under the guise of science. That's why, here's another example of how perfectly divided things are. That's why when the UFOs come, the right wing's going to get their rifles and shotguns and shoot. The left wing's going to say, beam me up. Give me one of these upgrades. Put my brain in a robot body so I can get rid of my carbon footprint. Nick T says virus translated is poison. Right. Well, again, my take on it too is that it's just too useful. So you couldn't have priests walking around telling people, hey, you guys shouldn't be holding hands in public. You're going to piss off God, and God's going to punish the rest of us with a plague. You would say, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But now they say, if you two get within, 72 inches of each other, you're going to get him sick, and he's going to kill 3.11 people who will then kill 3.11. Like dominoes. Bodies just falling everywhere because you got too close. So they just use a different excuse. Instead of saying sin, they say virus. I mean, this is a puritanical revision of our entire world view, and it's working. It's almost too late at this point to pull it back. Okay, I'm going through my notes just to see if there's anything else here that I've missed. Just a heads up here, we're going to be doing live streams and open phones earlier in the evening. Things have been a little bit pushed back. That's just because we've been developing this new cartoon series. But the foundation's there, and we have a team, we have a system, a methodology, so we'll be back to a regular schedule. And if you don't want to miss any live streams, you have to sign up, infiniteplainsociety.com. $1 per month gets you access to Discord, the newsletter, live stream, notifications, and more. Here's an article really quick. The Emmys have always had a soft spot for politicians. Now check this out. The International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences announced that they're breaking with the tradition and awarding its International Emmy Founders Award to a politician who's in office. This is, again, the merging of reality with fiction. They're just blending it all together. The news and the entertainment, no difference. So, listen to this. The governor's 111 daily briefings worked so well because he effectively created television shows with characters and plot lines with stories of success and failure. People around the world tuned in to find out what was going on, and New York Tough became a symbol of the determination to fight back. So yeah, he's getting an Emmy Award for his performance over 111 consecutive days. And this whole thing's just a TV show. Do you remember Greta Thunberg's performance, running around saving the world, got in a rowboat, ditched school, went across the ocean to the UN and lectured us about why we need to stay home for Christmas and all that? Well, that was all part of a Hulu TV show. When the camera's not watching, who knows what she's like? Commenter says regarding Governor Cuomo, panda eyes. Is that a druggy thing, adrenochrome, or what? I've noticed the same thing. I thought it looked like Bela Lugosi, the vampire. I mean, look, it's a spitting image. Biden looks just like Bram Stoker's Dracula. Cuomo is Bela Lugosi, no doubt. I mean, look, there's a whole cast of characters. We got Beetlejuice in Chicago. All these health directors. Like Biden voters. Commenter says Greta Thunberg in semicolons. Oh yeah, quite likely Reptoid. Reptoid, no doubt. Now, she is a great actor. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Just read her lines. I don't have any personal beef with any of these made-for-TV activists, but we're watching. I mean, I do have a slight feeling that Greta Thunberg might be the Antichrist. Like, I want to place bets. Who's more likely to be the Antichrist? Is it Thunberg, Obama, Trump, or Colin Kaepernick? And so far, I think I'm the only person betting on Kaepernick. It's unbelievable when I look at some of these characters. Oh, so look, from now on, though, the green pill. I want to take this. So if you didn't know, the green pill is an environmentalist thing. Apparently, they've been using it for some time. So the green pill is when you find out, oh, by the way, every time you breathe, yeah, you're actually poisoning Mother Earth. When they start guilt tripping you about being alive. That's the green pill. But we're kind of taking the green pill just to mean you're aware of how many people are likely candidates for having the reptoid in them. And a way to designate the reptoids or suspected reptoids is with semicolons. Yeah, let's look at Bram Stoker's Dracula because Zareth the Alchemist pointed this out to me on Twitter. He suggested that, well, maybe the reason why Joe Biden is always seen leaning over people and sniffing their necks is that it's part of the Dracula thing. So look at Bram Stoker's Dracula, aka Joe Biden, and you imagine Joe Biden the way he would bite somebody's neck. It's classic Dracula. And this is the guy who says the blood is the life. Bram Stoker was a Thelemite, a student of Aleister Crowley, probably a spirit cooking adrenochrome harvester. So yes, Biden, Bram Stoker, we got Bela Lugosi, a whole cast. I actually like Chicago's mayor. I mean, just the audacity to show up to work every single day like that in a Beetlejuice costume. Hilarious. Okay, here's a tweet. I don't know if this is true. It's George W. Bush. Anybody heard this, that he's the one who shot Kennedy? Has anybody heard this one? And here's a picture that contradicts the Mandela effect. Some people think it's a Mandela effect that it had 6 seats in the car, not 4 or something. Any Mandela affected want to call in? Any of you time travelers? That's such a huge claim. Anybody who says that they're Mandela affected is actually telling you that they are time travelers. Like, could you imagine telling somebody that? I'm a time traveler. I come from another timeline where Jif peanut butter was Jiffy, and Ed McMahon used to pass out big checks to true believers. That's such a huge claim, and very few affectees ever really own up to that. Like, really really just admit to what a huge claim that is. Okay, this is something I had to bring up. It's not a huge deal. I mean, it's not really related to anything, but it's a video of a man saving his puppy from an alligator while smoking a cigar. He jumps into the pool.
Put the gator down, shake the puppy from its grip.
And he pulled the puppy out of the gator's mouth. Anyways, on my Twitter feed, I keep sharing it. That someone was asking what that meme was. I have a meme that has a cigar, and it just says, "Fuck around and find out." Well, it references this gentleman here who didn't drop his cigar while he rescued his dog from the gator. Cunife says shadows in the Zapruder footage. Oh yeah, I'm going to have to examine that, but there's something else besides the Zapruder footage that we have to look at. Because I do want to look at the JFK thing again. One of them is the witnesses. There were a number of crisis actors that day who had some very conflicting accounts of what happened. There was some young crisis actor who said that she made eye contact with JFK and he had his dog on his lap. Finbar says George Bush said it was the other George Bush that was in Dallas. Okay, so George Bush, Skull and Bonesman, CIA said it was the other guy. Commenter says cigar guy video was in reverse. He was feeding his dog to the gator. Have there been any riots since Kyle got loose? Is that what they meant when they said release the Kraken? Let Kyle Rittenhouse out? Still wondering if Gage Grosskreutz has emerged. You know that Gage Grosskreutz had a tattoo on his arm of the Mercury medical symbol. The significance there, well, that's where you'd get a shot in the arm, possibly. That's kind of what I thought. Maybe it means something along the lines of it's a shot in the arm. And speaking of, I have one more image here I have to show you. There's no way to describe this other than carefully calculated and planned predictive programming. This is Captain America, and I'm sure many of you have seen this scene, but I have it labeled here. So this is a scene in Captain America Civil War, predictive programming. On the right, you have a COVID-19 virus on a billboard. On the left, you have a Corona, like a beer. In the middle, you have a Bill Gates-looking doctor perfectly positioned to be administering a vax to Captain America right there. I mean, how is that anything other than foreknowledge? ID Canspire says it could have been a pet gator. So you think that was like a pet gator viral TikTok video he made to get on USA Today? Okay, again, putting a link in the chat. South Pole season premiere, 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time, Thanksgiving, November the 26th. You're going to want to go over to the link and make sure you get the notification. And also get on my email newsletter, infiniteplainsociety.com. That way you don't miss it. It's going to be a weekly thing. It's called South Pole. I don't want to give you any spoilers, but if you're familiar with our memes or the content of this channel, you're probably going to like it. One more thing, I got a montage of a number of people in the Black Eye Club. You know, that faction of the Illuminati, or the rank where you get punched in the eye. I don't know if it's a shout out to Satan who had an eye injury or something. It's what it looks like. But I was looking over it, and I was kind of surprised to find that one, Kanye West is part of the club, but also Jimmy Carter. And so if you didn't know, the prevailing conspiracy theory, the advanced conspiracy theory, because, you know, the JFK thing is kind of, it's been around for decades, but the 101 version is it was done by this group, not this group. But the advanced version is he's not dead. And not only is he not dead, but he is Jimmy Carter. So here's Jimmy Carter, part of the Black Eye Club. Nebula says 2020 is just a primer for 2021. Well, for anybody who's worried about the third wave, let's wait for the second wave first, or even a first wave. And we haven't seen the Kung flu. Where is the Kung flu? The one that would knock somebody on their face, if they just pass by. It doesn't exist anymore. It was there for the first couple of weeks in Wuhan, but then after that, it just kind of turned into the sniffles. Here's a video, mask burning, Washington Square Park. This was...
Burn the mask! And then you're going to stage? Love it! Beautiful, beautiful, guys. I can make love to this.
Now, the burning masks... yeah, so there's a... I don't know. At this point, I think it's already too late. There's just no way. People aren't fearing this the way they used to. I still, like I said earlier, I don't know anybody who really fears it. It's just become, at this point, something of a joke. Again, they want you wearing a mask in your house. They want you wearing a mask if you invite people in who aren't from your area. And they want this whole idea of a circle, having a closed circle. And not only that, but they want the people in your closed circle to be people who make you aware that their circle is closed to people who, of course, are not showing their faces. And you know what Bill Gates has said recently? He's been saying that the people who aren't wearing masks are like nudists. That it's like refusing to wear your pants in public. And when I hear that, I'm like, wait, does Bill Gates actually want to equate not wearing a mask and showing your face with nudity? Because if he's going there, he's saying that your face is an obscenity. And I have a problem with that. So like showing your face is now tantamount to indecent exposure. Like, talk about misanthropy. Okay, thanks again for joining. I put a link below. Sign up. Don't miss the live streams this week. And then, of course, on Thanksgiving, you're not going to want to miss the premiere of South Pole. And that's just episode 1. We have a season planned. We're actually working on season 2 over at the Discord server now. All right, this is Fepe Akbar by Allergic to Bullshit, featuring Lean Dion. Have a great night.
Fuck with your deception, keep it real, that's a profession. Like the whole world is pretending, found the truth around the penguin. Get a gang on with a blessing, all the other gang are stressing. RPSC on a nesting, only real one's gonna get this. Fake ones don't accept this, they can miss the message. Timbuktu got bodies, yeah, find them in our records. Auto host a message, squad are represented. Killing you with knowledge, yeah, the oppa's getting better. Oh, you're so affected, cause we're so effective. Let go of your worries, yeah, the whole thing is a setup. We got it and we get it, offering refreshment. Level up your conscience, yes, honestly the essence. This wave is uncontainable, facts are undebatable. You lanes are unrelatable, give a fuck about saving you. We could keep on playing you, you just keep complaining too. Game is unescapable, unless you're with the gang or no.
Messing with the penguin, we're messing with the penguin. Messing with the penguin, 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 fucking with the penguins, yeah, with the penguins. I'm coming with a vengeance, trying to make you come to your senses. Forget the general consensus, just pay attention. The rules to has paid for good intentions. I'm clenching my back wrenching, representing only the most superior independent media. We got that real shit fucking encyclopedia. We're bringing an end to this mass hysteria. They wanna know why it's so serious, cause you must be delirious. If you're still believing stuff, get a grip and show some evidence for your bold claims. We don't play no games, we stay relentless, exposing those events. Quick, the IPS are making an entrance. Busting doors down, cause now's the time for interventions. Did I mention we're affecting so many men across the spectrum? We stand out from the crowd, we don't blend in. Steady gaining tremendous momentum, there's nothing close to resembling. Check the emblem, it's a penguin, not a gremlin. Just just letting you know you're on an infinite plane, it's never bending. We strike like 10 pin, killing all fears and breaking the tension. Gotta know the Hawks army, digging deep in the trenches. Come and join in, be adventurous. Quit being so sensitive, forget the censorship. We ain't telling fibs. Messing with the penguin. We're messing with the penguin. Messing with the penguin. Messing with the penguin. Messing with the penguin. You're messing with the penguin. Messing with the penguin. Fucking with the penguins, yeah.
One of the things that I like to analyze with all these events is, you can analyze what you don't see, the actual victims. You don't see any evidence of real mass casualty. The victims, the crisis actors